Our fourth speaker this morning is Advanced Communicator Bronze, Carol Doolin. And our final speaker, Carol, will inspire you with the example of her son, Gregory. With today's speech, Carol completes her second Confident Communicator Award. The title of her speech is Stretch Yourself. Please welcome Carol.
Preschool was difficult for my son Gregory. Intellectually, he could do it. By the time he turned 5, he could count backwards from 100 by 2s and count to 1,000 by 50s and read well. But there were things he didn't do well. He couldn't hold a pencil. Anytime he'd draw a picture, it was all black. So he'd line up the crayons in order instead of drawing. When we asked his preschool teacher if there was anything in particular we should do to get him ready for kindergarten, because he was starting soon after he turned 5, she said she'd check and came back and said, have him tested by an occupational therapist. When we did, she said he had motor skills in under the first percentile and had sensory issues. We all feel things, but some of us feel things differently. Gregory had sensory integration difficulties so that he perceived things a lot stronger. You know, that was why he gagged when food went in his mouth that he didn't like, or couldn't walk barefoot because things just felt too strong. He could also spin around and around and around and around without ever getting dizzy. We didn't know that was because he wasn't sensitive to stimulation in his ears. So we found out about all sorts of other senses too. You think of your normal 5 senses. There are 2 more. One is the sense of movement. You don't actually think of that as a sense, but it is for an occupational therapist. Another one is called proprioception. It's your sense of body placement. I know without looking where my arm is and what it is doing. Gregory didn't. He worked hard with an occupational therapist for a year. We'd take him all the way across town, once or twice a week at first, and then taper off to once a week. And we found out all sorts of things about him. Like, boy, he was not flexible. He was so inflexible, in fact, that the occupational therapist said, those hamstrings are so tight, it's affecting his balance. She taught him how to track things with his eyes. Most people pick this up much smaller, but at 5 he had not actually learned to track, and that was one of the things that was causing him some problems. The reason he wasn't writing, besides lack of interest on his part, was that he hadn't developed enough finger strength to hold a pencil. We worked with him on all sorts of basic things that you wouldn't have really thought you actually had to teach a child. After a year or so seeing the occupational therapist, he graduated. He surpassed the 20th percentile and no longer needed to be in occupational therapy. He could now learn how to do things just by participating in activities. At that point, we started him in martial arts. You would not think that Gregory sounds like a natural athlete. But we started him in martial arts because we knew the instructor and we were looking for a sport that would be a reasonably good fit for him. Both our children are small. We said, that's a sport that it doesn't matter if you're small, you're not at a comparative disadvantage. It also was structured. It has a lot of things that drew us to it. In a way, this martial arts class is sort of like Toastmasters. It's got a structure. You follow the program, you show up, you work hard, you do the activities, and over time you get better. Except it would be like Toastmasters if when you had said ahs and ums, you had to do push-ups. But at any rate, he started in the martial arts. He worked hard hard. Toward the beginning, he got promoted fairly frequently because that was the setup. He started off at a white belt, went to a yellow belt, and a red belt, and a blue belt, and a brown belt. Worked his way through the program. 2 years ago, he entered a new phase. He became a danbanim, a black belt candidate in this particular school of martial arts, which is called Kuksowan. Being a danbanim is not quite as rewarding as those earlier stages. It's testing every month, testing hard, and passing rarely. The whole process is really meant to be challenging. Out of the 24 tests he takes over the course of at least 2 years, he's expected to pass 7. He is now about a month away from earning his black belt, which is really impressive. When I look at him and watch him do the martial arts, the forms, does he have low stances, as low as other people's? Can he kick as high as those other people, and can he do the forms as crisply? Well, no. But that isn't the point. When I compare him with what he was like as a 6-year-old, and I am just amazed at how well he can move and the things that he could do that I wouldn't have really ever thought he could. He can spin a staff. He can do a sword form with a wooden sword. He can spin around those Nerf nunchucks and catch it and not keep hitting himself in the face with it. That's amazing. Last weekend, we went to a martial arts tournament in St. Louis. Long trip to St. Louis. And he competed in the tournament. He did not win a medal. I did not really expect him to win a medal. But he did his best. He tried. He did well, from my point of view. When I look back at it, I say, well, talent and effort will take you a long way. But don't be put off and box yourself in by saying, well, gee, I just don't have that talent. Because anyone looking at Gregory as a 6-year-old would have said, well, he's never really going to get good at it. But the effort he's gone through and the side benefits he's had from it have been wonderful. He has had such a sense of accomplishment. He has joined a community. He has really burnished his cool credentials, darn it. But all because he approached it and with an attitude that he could do it. And that's the attitude that I want to have you adapt to. Let's take this.